My talk is entitled, Home is Where the Heart Is.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Mary, it's okay.
Yeah, no worries. Home is where the heart is. It's a tender topic for me to touch on today, perhaps for you too. It's a topic that I have talked about for hours on end. It's a topic I'll probably continue to talk about for hours on end. Not today. Because for me, it's an area of life in my new program, the New Design for Living, that has had a complete and total paradigm shift. I mean, you could not get a more massive infrastructure paradigm shift for society and humanity than to have had millions of people suddenly work from home. Many are still working from home. So the idea that home is where the office is was really only something that a handful of people were doing as part of their everyday work life. Now, it's the norm. And just like that, home is where the office is. So when we look at our Science of Mind symbol with the beautiful V that cuts through the soil, the seed, the soil that becomes the plant, today the outpicturing of our societal reality is that plant. And here in Anchorage, as we continue to talk about this topic as home, we have homelessness, right? So we have people, and it seems more people than ever before, who don't have a place to lay their heads down at night. They don't have a place that they can call home. They don't have the safety and the comforts that come with home. And when you're in survival mode, I'm kind of feeling that it's difficult. It's very challenging to maintain that feeling that home is where the heart is. Is it possible? Yes. We have people like Nelson Mandela and others who have showed us that you can live in inhumane conditions, but you can still be in your home and be untouched, the home of your thoughts and your mind and the home of your feelings and your heart. And the other thing that's in the world of effects for me, that's in the plant, and maybe for you too, and if not for you, I would imagine at least someone that you know, is that in the last couple of years, many of us have had to deal with our parents' home. Those of us who lost our last parent and had to go through all of their possessions and had to deal with family and siblings and possibly even the sale of your childhood home. And so when we talk about home is where the heart is, when we talk about that, well, if you had a difficult childhood, then that might not be a saying you relate to or would even consider. However, if your childhood home was a place that was meaningful for you and you had a good and healthy upbringing, then you could really resonate with home is where the heart is. So that phrase and that saying that goes back to the 1800s is very pliable and can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. Then we had the experience of ourselves in our own homes. And what did we end up having to deal with? Our own possessions, right? I mean, we had all this time to be intimately with everything that we have purchased, acquired, and accumulated. And what did we realize? Whoa, I have too much stuff. I mean, seriously, how many coats does one person need, right? In Alaska, apparently, quite a bit. And so many of us over the last couple of years, and maybe some of us are still purging and releasing our possessions through the law of circulation and giving them to others who may need them now when we don't. And for me also, the purging of our possessions from our home is allowing me to have my home be a more accurate outpicturing for who I am today. So we have that part of the topic of home, right? But my hope today, my intention today, is to help you begin the journey from your own head to your heart, and to also be honest about the condition of your home. You know, it's like that other saying, I was thinking about this last night, made in the image and likeness of. Well, if you grew up in a program, in a philosophy where that thing, that it, was to be feared or was outside of you, right? You're here, it's there. If you grew up in a religion or a philosophy that taught that you were separated from that image, then why on earth would you want to be made in its likeness, right? So when I got into this philosophy, I had to do a lot of unpacking and healing before I could ever even consider being made in the image and in the likeness of. And that is the same thing with the heart. Because unless you really know where your heart is, and unless you really have a relationship, an authentic and real relationship with your heart, unless you really know the language of your heart and how that language is different from the language of your mind, which is something I talk about extensively in my book, The Confusion Experiment, as much as you would like your heart to be your home, it may be a foreign place to you. It may be a place that you have not visited in quite some time. It may not even be a place that you feel comfortable in. It may be filled with so much stuck energy, so much unprocessed pain, so much unforgiveness and sadness that there's not even room for you to experience yourself in your own heart. And really, what does it even mean to be home? Like, that's what I love about hanging out with you, because I think it's really important these days to unpack these things that we've been talking about and saying for all this time so that we can have a modern day, present day experience and definition of what it means right now for who we are right now. I mean, the whole idea of home is where the heart is, for me, that's like a big promise, right? That's a high ideal. You've got the home part and you've got the heart part. I'm telling you, we could talk about this for a really long time, and it's actually very worthy of our time. But for today, let me give you this prepackaged definition of these two elements so that we can agree on that for right now, so that we can go deeper. We can take a deeper dive into what this is all about. So for me, home is a feeling. Maybe you resonate with that as well. And the heart, for me, the heart is an intelligence. So we've already established that the home can be a structure, and that's how most of us experience home. I'm going home. Why don't you come over to my house? It's a structure. It's a place where we live. However, today, let's elevate that idea. Let's elevate our thinking about that idea. Let's elevate our experience of home. Let's go from the plant into the soil and back to the seed so that we can really understand what it means for us when we say home is where the heart is. And so to do that, I want to put out some questions for you to consider. Good news is this is recorded. You can go back, and I hope you do, and do some deeper work with these questions. Here's one for you. And I want you to ask yourself to think about what the feelings are, what your feelings are when you specifically think about your home. So when you feel at home with yourself and you feel like you're in your own skin, what does that feel like? Do you know? Can you find some phrases or some adverbs or adjectives or some descriptive sentence that can help you have a sense of what home is to you today, right now? And like everything else, your answer today might be different than it was last year. And it might be different tomorrow. And this is something we talked about in my other talk, that in the new design for living, the real skill of the moment is to be able to change your mind with ease and confidence and to pivot. Because things are changing so rapidly and we're getting so much information every single day that it's really important to be willing to keep changing your mind, because you and I are changing all the time. Home is where the heart is. So for me, that's the first thing to be thinking about as we go into these holy days. What do I feel like when I say I'm at home within and with myself? And if you're unable to answer that, or if the idea of hanging out with yourself or being in your own skin or being with yourself is a bit much, that's totally okay. And guess what? That's your starting place. That's where you get to begin. That's where I had to begin, realizing that I was completely separate from my heart. Because before I can come home to my heart, I have to feel like I can be home with myself. A lot of us spend a lot of time distracting ourselves, keeping ourselves extremely busy because we're uncomfortable, we're afraid, we resist being alone with ourselves. You know what that's called? A sign. That's called a sign. Something is calling you home. I want to encourage you to respond to that. So here are some other questions to consider. Where is there stuck energy that it's time for me to purge? Where is there stuck energy that I can put on my altar to be altered by the power and the presence of love? What new intentions can I set for myself? The new moon is coming up next week. I love these moments that we have, the new moon and the full moon, because it gives us a chance to align ourselves with the cosmos. It gives us a chance to have a place marker in the month, to create ritual for ourselves. So whereas the full moon is all about letting go, the new moon is about setting intentions and planting new seeds. So what intentions can I set for myself? Can you set for yourself that allows you to call on the powers that surround us to assist us in doing for ourselves what we can't do on our own? I'm a big fan of these days. I've kind of hit the end of the road, so to speak. I no longer think I got to figure it all out, do it all myself. I am all about collaboration these days, especially with the unseen world, because that's where a lot of power and support is. But it always waits for us to call on it. Where is there unforgiveness? Yeah. Where am I experiencing ongoing emotional pain that is asking me for its attention, for my care and my kindness? Where is there stuck hurt that is associated with a story that still has a drizzle of victimhood that you know you have to deal with in order to be free? Forget about getting home to your heart. It's a practice to be free. So that to me is the journey. Those questions, they're the roadmap. They help us move from our head to our heart. And I encourage you to add to that or do that in a meditative state, in a prayerful state, asking, show me. Shine the light of my awareness on those areas of my life that I've either become unconscious to, or are stuck in my subconscious, or I've lost my awareness of, that can help me not only find my way home to myself and to my heart, but can allow me to do the inner work, the spiritual work that creates a sense of freedom from these places within us where we have been trapped. You know, that great song by the Eagles, you know? So oftentimes it happens. We live our lives in chains and we never even know we have the key. You have the key. You have the key. However, you have to be willing to pick it up and use it and put it into the locked areas and turn the key of forgiveness so that you can set yourself free. You know, when I do these talks, honestly, in every area of my life, I am always telling people, and I've told you many, many times, you probably know what I'm going to say, put your hand on your heart. I want to invite you to do that right now. If you're home, put your hand on your heart. You know, I was thinking about this. If we put as much attention wondering in where our heart is as we do where we put our phone or where our phone is, right? We would always know where our heart is. Let's get the heart up to the level of the phone. Where's my phone? Where's my heart? So we acknowledge the organ. When you put your hand on your heart, you get to remember where it is, and you get to acknowledge this incredible organ that is keeping you alive, and it doesn't even need your help. I mean, seriously, think about the thousands of functions that are going on right now that are keeping you alive. You are not even needed. Your participation is not necessary for that to be happening every single second. I mean, talk about an intelligence that knows all because it is all. This is a holy temple. Like, we know that now. If you've been on the path for any amount of time, or even if you are just an enthusiast for exercise and health, you know that this is the vessel, this is the vehicle that we have been given, skin and bones and everything within it, so that our consciousness has something to use to experience this life. So by putting your hand on your heart, you have a location. My heart is here, physically, but also spiritually, right? Like the heart chakra. And this entire area is so filled with power and presence. And also, come on, how incredible is the heart? When we are unable to deal with life, the heart holds that for us. When stuff gets stuck and it doesn't pass through us, as Michael Singer talks about in his books, The Untethered Soul and Untethered Living, our heart holds that for us while it still does what it does. The heart is a magnificent gift. And I'm telling you, we are being asked to deal with our hearts. We are being asked to represent our hearts, to demand a space at the table of life for our hearts. That we're moving from the value of knowing to the value of feeling. That we're moving from the value of thinking to one of the great languages of the heart, which is intuition. Intuition, that is the language of the heart. How did you know that? I just knew. That's your heart. Instinct and intuition are the languages of the heart, the brains of the operation. There's so much work out there, right? With the brain, heart, the heart map and the heart math, and Joe Dispenza doing brain and heart coherence. It is worth your time. It is absolutely fascinating, the power that is right here in our hearts. So we have a location, we have a roadmap that helps us move from our mind to our hearts, and it's a place we've avoided for quite some time, right? Who wants to feel? I mean, if it's good and great and joyful and happy, yeah, bring it on, more and more, I love it. But if it's not that, if it's the other stuff, we have done a terrific job in our society avoiding how we feel. We numb ourselves with all sorts of things. Like I was just saying, we keep ourselves extremely busy so as not to feel. I'm not judging that. I'm just saying, because I've done that too. But it is something to take a look at. And I want to invite you to do that right now. The last couple of years, I don't know, put us right in our hearts, didn't it? Even if you didn't want to feel it, where were you going to go? You're going to talk to that person again that's in your house that you wish wasn't in your house, that you thought you loved with all your heart and soul, and now you're like, can't you go to the store or something? Oh, you can't go to the store? Oh, right? So at some point, we had to look and deal with our feelings. Some of us didn't. It's okay. Some of us did. Some of us are still dealing with our hearts. A lot of us are still doing that work. And you know as well as I do at this point in our experience, if you want to fully live, if you want to be available for what's seeking to emerge, if you want to be on the cutting edge of designing a life that works for you, if you want to be able to reimagine your life, let alone society and everything that we're dealing with out there, you've got to deal with your heart. You've got to purge the old way of being in relationship with your heart. You've got to purge the old program of the heart. You've got to purge the old hurts to make room, right? Coming up next month, there was no room in the manger. The manger is your head and your mind and your heart. Make the room. Make the room for your own birth. Make the room for your own resurrection. Make the room so that more of that Christ consciousness, that consciousness of wholeness can reveal itself to you and as you. And the thing of it is, and this is the tough part, I will admit this, to do this work, you have to kind of sit in the center of it all. Like you got to have the guts and the willingness to walk into the room of your heart and go, okay, I've avoided this for a very, very long time, and now I'm going to make time to sit in the center of all that stuff so that there is room for it to come up, to be realized and experienced, because it's got to come out the same way it went in, and to bring compassion to yourself as you do that willingly. Because we don't want that stuff in our system anymore. It's clogging us up. We want to be lighter. We want to be more free. We want to have more space to be and hold more light. We want to be less dense and more energy. We want to be less material and more spiritual. And the way for that to happen is to give yourself permission to even create some time in our busy schedules for your heart. And to identify, where am I in separation? I mean, look, you don't have to do any of this, and that's fine. I love you regardless. I love myself regardless. However, I am challenging you a little bit today to go a little deeper with this, because we are needed. When you do this work, you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your partner and your family. Are you kidding? The people who came before you that didn't have the tools or the awareness or the language to even do this work, let alone the ones that are coming or the ones that are in front of you. It is tremendous work to do for your ancestral lineage. I guarantee that. So where do you need to reunite with yourself? What happened that you cut yourself off from yourself? You all know what that is. It's coming up right now. So what is my heart asking me to do that I can heal that separation with my own self so I can be in my own skin? You know, when I turned 50, I was just like, okay, that's it. I am done seesawing. I'm in myself. I'm out of myself. I'm with myself. I'm against myself. It was so painful. And I just decided that the gift I was going to give myself was, I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm completely in me. I'm going completely into my skin, no matter what. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of those things that we say, I'm all in, and I'm going to stay with myself no matter what. That was how I healed my own separation to myself. I want to encourage you to love yourself completely. Seriously. It's time to love yourself completely. Rip off the side view mirrors, yank off the rear view mirror, and look straight ahead. Like my friend said, don't look backwards. You're not going that way. You could ask why forever, but does it really matter why this happened? Why, does it? I mean, I don't know. Somebody recently said, do you want to know something about your personality? I was like, uh-oh. Do I want to know something about my personality that might be tripping me up? Okay, sure, go right ahead, right? I ask why. Now, I understand as an interviewer in the work I do in broadcasting, that's a necessary thing to help somebody go deeper, or you're extracting a story from somebody. You ask them why. But she was right. My incessant need to know why spilled over into my personal life, and it got me stuck, and it made me suffer. Because my mind was saying, we can't heal, we can't forgive, we can't move on until we know why. I don't really care why anymore. I want to just be free. You know, as Reverend Nancy would say, get rid of that stinking thinking. To love ourselves completely, to be unwilling to let false statements about who you are or your life to be something that you engage with. To be unwilling to let inaccurate beliefs keep you trapped anymore. This is the call of the moment, right here and right now. So as we do all of these steps and step on our journey home to our heart, we get there. It's like, yeah, I'm home. And then you realize, oh my gosh, it's a mess. Right? So many of us are hoarding hate. So many of us are hoarding blame and shame and judgment, and our home is dusty with resentment and jealousy. So you have to be willing when you get home to deal with the mess. That's what we're waking up to. And what does that mean? That means a strategy for when our heart is triggered. All right, so here's my tip around that, because now that's the big word. Oh, I got triggered. Oh, she got triggered, right? We're all using that word. I want a way out of that. I want a way out of being triggered. And so here's what Michael Singer says that I have been doing, and it's very, very helpful. So you get triggered. Like for me, contrast is very helpful. In other words, like I know I have to get out of something because I'm in it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm sure enlightenment is never getting in it, but I'm still getting in it, and I'm using contrast to get out of it. So when we get triggered, when something clicks, and all of a sudden we're in it, right? The process, the practice to apply is literally, I was doing it this way. Lean back. You're triggered, stuff is coming up. Lean back, because the old way is to lean in. And when you lean in, guess what happens? You become it. And when you become it, it's you and you're it, and there you are, animated, all juiced up. But for the new way, in order to come home to your heart, and when you get there, deal with what's there, as this stuff comes up, I want you to start leaning back. You're going to have an excellent opportunity on Thursday to do a lot of leaning back as we get together with our family. Our great teachers. You're going to be sitting at the table. You're going to be going like this. People are going, what are you doing? I'm leaning back. I'm leaning back. And what happens when you do that? You create a space between you and what's coming up. And in that space, you allow that feeling, that experience, that blocked energy to have more room so that it can be released and dissolved. I encourage you to give that a try. So when we say home is where the heart is, we first have to know where our heart is. We have to understand what is our real and authentic relationship with our heart. Think of all the things we say about our heart. My heart is broken. You know, oh, my heart, shattered into a million pieces. I mean, seriously, you got to love this thing we call the heart. But when we have the ability to do this work that's necessary for our healing, when we have the willingness to identify whether or not we've been separate from our own heart, that over the years we've either been told by others or by ourselves, even worse, not to trust your heart, we've bought into that belief. We shouldn't trust this. Look what it did the last time. Look at that relationship it got you into last time. I can't trust it. I want to encourage you to take a look at that. because we have enough conscious awareness right now. We certainly have enough tools, and we certainly have the supportive community to get on with this. Like, I don't believe it has to take as long to heal as it took for this stuff to get stuck in us. We can do this quickly. I mean, set your intention. Use the modalities that are available to you. Get those tools of prayer and meditation and vision and contemplation. Call upon the God of your own understanding and seek to clear and heal the home that is your heart. Because when that happens, when you journey from your head to your heart, when we take an assessment of our relationship to our heart, I mean, we're doing it in every area of our lives. We take assessments of every person that we hang out with. We're always doing it, whether we're conscious of it or not, but do we do it with our own heart? When we do the healing, when we do the spiritual work of forgiveness, when we have done all of that work, I truly believe that is when we can begin to say, I am one with myself. I know where my heart is because I'm putting my hand on it throughout the day. Home is where the heart is. And the other thing I want to ask you to do is when you have to make decisions, ask your heart. This is a great thing to do. You have to make a decision. Put your heart in the decisions. In other words, you say, well, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. Put your heart in each of those outcomes and ask yourself, how do I feel? Because the heart works on feelings. It will give you a preview, right? You walk into a room, your heart goes, oh man, this is a fun party. This is going to be great. Or you walk into a room, you go, what's up here? Something's not right. Your heart is always giving you a preview of what is to be. And I want to encourage you to use those heart responses as equally as you would your thinking. So when I see my heart as my house, as my home, a place where I can dwell, we then get to the final piece. How clean is it? And am I willing to do the daily cleaning, spiritual practices, the weekly cleaning, coming here or watching this Sunday service online, the monthly and the yearly cleaning, just like we do to our house, spring cleaning. Well, every time you have that impulse to do cleaning in your own home, apply it to your own heart and do what you can to make your heart a purified state. Then you can honestly say, home is where the heart is. And the last thing I just want to share with you is, some of you know over the last several years, I've been traveling back and forth caring for my mom in the home I grew up in, which was the home she still lived in. And then suddenly she was gone, and I was in that house all by myself, and 2 weeks later we went into a lockdown. So my heart was a war zone, I mean, a lot of us kind of felt that, those meat tenderizers, those hammers, that our heart was hammered over the last couple of years. Tenderized. So home is where the heart is? Not for me during that time. I couldn't even find it. Talk about a million pieces, right? So many of us are putting our hearts back together again. If that's where you are, oh my gosh, what courage it takes to do that. Some of us are like, you know what? I can't repair this. I'm going to just trade this in for a new heart. Sometimes an actual organ, but why not a spiritual transplant? Sometimes you just go, you know what? It's just too much. I'm going to give this up, and I'm going to give myself the gift of a more purified heart. And if you're not doing any heart work, I want to invite you to do that today. And I am available, the practitioners are available, Reverend Don is available to support you, to hold a space for you, because let's face it, we're adults. We know. I mean, yeah, Italian Catholics think they know everything. It's pretty amazing, right? We always knew what was best for the other person, but I've learned over time that the best gift I can give anybody is to just hold a space while it's happening, while the tears flow, while the anger comes. It's a wonderful, wonderful gift. And again, not just for ourselves, but for the global heart. I mean, the global heart is in need right now. The global heart is on life support right now. This is the time. Right here and right now, I want to encourage you to make space in your life, in your daily life, for your heart. And in order to do it, you have to have the capacity and the willingness to have self-compassion. Because when you have a room in your heart that's tender, or when the whole heart is tender, you have to be able to live in a compassionate place with it. And that's when the hand on the heart is so valuable. Can you bring enough compassion to yourself when you're sad? Even though we believe in the eternality of life, can you hold your heart with enough tenderness and compassion because you're grieving as part of the human experience? Can you stretch the canvas to have your spiritual beliefs and your human experience and bring compassion to yourself while all that's happening? What does that sound like? You put your hand on your heart. I know. You're talking to yourself out loud. I do it all the time. I know this is really hard right now. I know you miss this person. I know you miss your beautiful pet, your dog, your cat right now. This is really hard right now. I know that that person hurt you, and you're still feeling that right now. That's how you do it. That is how, for me, it sounds. I want to encourage you to bring that level of compassion to yourself, because it will help you clean and purify your heart very quickly, and it will give you an additional daily tool that you can use as you're living life. So those are some of the questions that I ask you to ponder today when we talk about home is where the heart is. Wow. You know, I think about that great song from the Talking Heads. Home, it's where I want to be, but I think I'm already there. Let's turn towards prayer. And keep your hands on your heart if you feel comfortable doing that, even if you don't feel comfortable doing that. I want to encourage you to put your hand on your heart as a means to express gratitude for the organ that is keeping you alive. Giving thanks to the spiritual organ that has held all of that hurt, all of that pain for so long until we got ready to be ready to deal with it, to heal it, to hold a space for ourselves and others at this tender time, to do the work of the heart, to forgive, to let go, to amplify our practices, to pour more holy water in the cup that holds our heart so that it overflows and pours itself over those around us, those we work with, those we live with, those we interact with. Because here in our philosophy, we absolutely believe that the word has creative power in it. In fact, we know scientifically that the voice activates the field. In the beginning, the word. So we claim our inherent right to be co-creators of all of the laws that govern this universe. The law of circulation, the law of reciprocity, the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect, the laws of mental equivalent, the laws of growth. That is what is happening right here and right now. That's why we call this the science of mind and spirit. This is a scientific technology that we are utilizing right here and right now, where we are intentionally putting together a mold through the word to give to the field, to fill with the substance of life, the command to the law to make it so. And what is ours to do if it's already done? To claim it, to speak it, to intend it, to call it forth, to look for it, to expect it, to anticipate. What are we anticipating as we go into these holy days? Can we give ourselves permission to feel better than the situation dictates? Can we use our practices? And can we use these questions to journey from our head to our heart? I declare that we are. I declare that we say yes today. I declare that we are all right here and right now being healed by this word. I declare that right here and right now, all the hurts are being dissolved by the power of prayer. I declare that right here and right now, we are purifying our hearts, we are letting go, we are forgiving, we are moving on. We are looking ahead. I believe and I claim that right here and right now, we are making a space at the table for our hearts this Thanksgiving. We are allowing ourselves to get prayed up so that we are a field of love and harmony and peace so great, so strong, that nothing can penetrate that field. That the waves, that those vibrational frequencies are so strong and so powerful, they just overwhelm everyone who's in our path with love and peace and harmony and oneness and joy and forgiveness. I claim that there are healings of the heart all over the world this Thanksgiving. That instead of anticipating an issue with our family, we anticipate a healing with our families. We are the conductor. We are the architect. We are the thing itself. We get to choose what's going to happen. And we are choosing that our hearts are healed, that the heart of our family is healed. Whether we interact with each other or not is irrelevant. What's relevant is the heart, the space between us. We are declaring that as we do the work on our own hearts, as we allow that to ripple out to the heart of our family, our community, our work environment, that it surely and it must by law ripple out and affect the whole. The global heart. Because if we are here to call ourselves light workers and love workers, if we claim to be on the path, then we realize that we must step into our heart. Because we are ready to say, my home is where my heart is. I know where it is. I've cleaned it. It's been purified of anything and everything unlike love. This is what I know for myself, for you, for anyone who's watching this, who comes to watch it, that this is real and it's happening. We have set our intention. We have planted it into the soil of the divine mind, surrounded by the laws that know how to bring this about. That's not ours to do. What ours to do is what we are doing right now. We're claiming it. And we are anticipating it. And we are grateful for this home, this spiritual home, that we get to come back to time and time again. The home that we leave and are always welcomed back to when we return. Thank you for this spiritual home, for all the hands that make it a home, for all the hands that made this Thank You God dinner a beautiful feast, not just of food, but of fellowship. And so with a grateful heart now, each of us releases this word. And we move into Thanksgiving, knowing that it is absolutely being done, and we are ready to receive. Join me together in saying, and so it is. So it is so. It is so. Namaste. Thank you.